Welcome to Shepherd's Coffee Talk. We love food and we love Paula.
Thank you.
And we're back again.
We love summer too.
Yes.
We love the foods of summer, the freshness of summer.
Those flavors, so good.
My husband always tells the story of when he'd come home from school at the beginning of September, the house would smell like vinegar and mustard because his mother would be doing pickles and pickled beans, I guess, in that mustard sauce. And that's really such a special memory, right? Our moms, grandmoms got into the kitchen. My mom didn't. Did your mom?
A little bit, but not too much.
Yeah. I think it's really a wonderful tradition to keep. I'm sure you do a fair bit of it, Paula.
I made some pickled beets yesterday for my son's girlfriend for her birthday.
Oh, what a beautiful gift. Wow, made by you too.
Yeah.
But they were special.
We ate a whole jar at dinner, so yeah, they were great.
Not bad. So let's talk about, that's what we want to talk about today, is keeping these summer flavors into the fall and winter while we're coping with less than ideal weather and less than ideal produce as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, you pick up a tomato now, you can smell it before you even cut into it. It's just got that ripe garden smell, and then you pick one up in January and it's just sad.
It's just a sad thing. These are special. These are aromas, right?
That's right.
Aromas, yeah. So we're going to talk about tomatoes first, I guess, because everybody no doubt has, if you grow anything in your garden, you know tomatoes are easy to grow, so everybody does them. I've got 3 or 4 bowls of little cherry tomatoes sitting on my counter right now waiting for something. So maybe today I'll have an idea after talking to you.
Okay.
So what do we have here, Paula?
So first off, we've got this beautiful smoky tomato ketchup, and it's one of my favorite gifts to give to people. If you just have a little sniff, you can smell the smokiness. It's just wonderful. It takes less than an hour to make a batch, and everything I make is in a reasonable batch. I grew up where we made 40 jars of things. It's too much for people today. A, you don't have a place to store it. B, it takes too long. And C, what are you going to do? We don't have 8-person families like I grew up in. So I am big on these small batch things where you get 4 or 5 little jars. I save some, I gift some, and this ketchup is just a real favorite.
So what's the secret ingredient in that?
Well, the secret first is getting the seeds out of the tomatoes. So you can buzz them in a blender and then put them through a sieve. You can put them through a juicer if you happen to have one. And you can even cheat and buy passata, which is strained tomatoes. So that's, right now I make it with fresh tomatoes. If I need a new batch in January, I buy the passata. It tastes just the same.
Okay, and what gives it the smokiness?
Adobo peppers. So hot peppers in adobo sauce, and then a couple of dashes of liquid smoke. So it's kind of a secret ingredient, and it's so much better than ordinary ketchup. It's gourmet ketchup.
Oh, it's so good, and I can smell it over here, and I'm thinking with chicken be really good. What else do you recommend? Sandwiches?
Whenever you use ketchup. Right?
Yeah, I'm not a big ketchup person, so this is great for me.
Eggs in the morning?
That's what I really like it
eggs.
with frittata, exactly, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yummy. And then these look beautiful. These are oven roasted tomatoes.
That's right. So it's again the beautiful aromas, and so they've just been drizzled with a little bit of garlic, olive oil, some salt, pepper, and some hot pepper flakes. And you and Marlene each have a bite if you wish to taste them.
Thank you.
And so I use these many ways. I freeze them as is, and then I'll throw them in with some chicken and a bit of chicken broth and maybe some onions. It's a beautiful dish. You can also puree it up and use it as a pasta sauce or for homemade pizza. That's my go-to pizza sauce. And I do trays and trays and trays of these at a time. And then once they're cooked, I just leave them on the tray, put the tray in the freezer, and then they freeze individually. So it's easy to open a bag and just pull out 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever you need at a time.
It's got a nice kick to it too, huh?
Yeah.
A little bit of pepper going on there.
Yeah.
But I love the idea too of laying things out. I do that with bananas. Peel them, lay them on something, put them in the freezer, and they freeze individually. Put them in a bag so you can grab them if you need them for a smoothie or whatever.
That's right.
It looks pretty.
They are pretty. We often just eat them as is, just as you've tasted today. I love that as a side dish.
Goat's cheese with goat's cheese.
Everything with goat's cheese. Absolutely, absolutely.
As a side dish, that'd be lovely. Yeah, for sure. And what do we have here?
So this is my favorite way to. It's frost is coming, right? You hear the weather report. Watch out for frost tomorrow morning. I run out to the garden and I pick as many herbs as I can because they're quite tender, with the exception of rosemary and thyme and sage. Everything else, you know, you're going to wake up and it's going to be keeled over. So parsley, basil, mint, these are all great ways to save it. I chop it up, I put it in with some olive oil and freeze it in a little bag.
Okay.
And I label, what it is, throw it in the freezer. Next time I'm making some soup, I think, a little bit of parsley would really help this flavor. Open the bag, crack a frozen corner off, toss it in the soup, and that's it. So this one's been thawing a little bit, but they just work so well, and they're so thin and flat. You can pack dozens of them in the freezer, and they take up no space at all. And it's much better than buying that bunch of cilantro in December
Right.
when you need
Yeah.
a teaspoon of cilantro.
Yeah.
You know?
Just break off a
so
little
break
piece
that
of it.
off,
Yeah.
and if you're
Kills you
stirring
have
it,
to throw it away.
Yeah, right, exactly.
or
Super
in-
smart.
conversely, if you do buy it in December, then follow this method and you won't waste it.
So what we do with the parsley, or can we do this with other, with
Basil,
okay.
cilantro, mint, anything.
We
Yeah.
blanch it?
No, in
No.
this case, because it's freezing so fast, you don't have to.
Okay.
So I literally chop it, put it in a bag, drizzle a little bit of oil or water, chicken broth, whatever you like.
Oh.
Squeeze the air out, freeze it, shut it, freeze it, and that's it.
I love you for that.
But you wash it first. You wash your
Of
basil
course,
first?
yeah.
But I
Everything
always
should be
find every
washed.
time I wash it, it starts to get limp and.
It's because you've been manhandling your herbs, Marlene.
Natish pop.
I'm guilty.
So the way I wash basil in particular, because it is so sensitive to
It's very
bruising,
sensitive.
is I fill a container with water and I hold it by the stems and I just dunk it in and pull it out.
Yeah.
That's it?
And that's it.
Yeah.
And then just lay it on a kitchen towel to dry, and then I will process it.
Is
so
it worth it? I mean, because
you
some
should
people.
wash everything. You don't know where that basil's been.
I know,
So-
but is that going to do it? Just a dunking, or do you have to put? I know some friends that put a little bit of something in the water. To
I guess
clean
think
it.
about your source, right? If it's coming from my backyard garden,
Yeah,
I know
of
I've
course.
got no fertilizer, I don't have
Yeah.
any cats roaming through the herb garden
Yeah.
or anything like that. So I'm just confident I want to get the dirt off. If it's coming from a source that you're a little more concerned about, absolutely, you could put some dishwater in that same dish soap in that same container of
Really?
water and swish it around with your finger and then dunk it in, and that's going to help too.
You rinse it off after you dunk it in the dish soap?
Dish soap's
Dish
edible.
soap
We eat
in
it
there?
all the time. We probably eat gallons of it every year.
You're right.
Yeah.
My
But
grandma
it
used to
does have a
say,
soapy taste. You know,
yeah,
when it's
yeah,
left
so
in the
maybe rinse it
dishwasher.
off after
Sure,
if you're
okay.
in the
Sure.
mood to
All
do
right.
that.
Okay. So that's a good tip.
What's in the
This
bottle?
is basil oil. This is one of my favorite things. So in this case, you do blanch the basil, and that's so it keeps its bright green color.
Okay.
And then you just puree it in a blender with olive oil, and that's it. And you can store that in the fridge for months and months and months, drizzled on fresh tomatoes, drizzled on a piece of grilled fish, drizzle it on
Pizza pie.
chicken. It's like pesto's more
tomato.
refined cousin.
I was going to say, what's the difference between pesto
So it
and
doesn't
this?
have garlic, it doesn't have salt and pepper,
Okay.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have pine nuts or walnuts, it doesn't have cheese. So it's just the pure essence of basil and the color. I mean, it's like an emerald, you know?
it's just like
beautiful.
summer in a bottle.
That's right.
So
So
are you freezing that?
I just throw it in the fridge and it keeps
Stays
just
for
fine.
how long?
And mine, I don't strain it as much. So you can see this one separating a little. We've got super clear on the top and then a bit more, it's got a bit more texture on the bottom, and it depends on how you prefer. If you want it to be really crystal clear, then you strain it, but you get less quantity. So
Right.
I like to just leave it as is and give it a shake before
Yeah,
I use
who
it.
doesn't like getting some basil in their oil?
Exactly.
So then we can freeze these little puppies too, just as is.
Again, wash them. That's all you have to do, and literally put them in a bag and freeze them. You don't even have to lay them out because they're pretty robust on their
Yeah,
own.
yeah.
So I love these silicone bags.
These are nice.
I have a secret Ziploc bag addiction, and I'm getting help for it. And my help is coming in the form of these bags, and I've bought a ton of them in different sizes. They have little snack bag sizes, bigger ones that are like a quart size, and they're so easy to wash and reuse.
You just stick them in the sink with some soapy water.
That's right.
Boom, hang them upside down somewhere.
That I just drape them over a bottle on the counter
Yeah.
or something like that,
Yeah.
and they're
This is
just
the way
great.
we have to go now.
Yes, ma'am.
We
We've gotta
really do.
this.
So
Yeah.
you just literally pop these in as many as you can fit in the bag. I do bags and bags and bags of these. I don't know if I can fit that third one in this one, and then just zipper shut. Don't even have to squeeze the air. You don't have to do anything.
It's exciting.
And then you just throw those in the freezer. When you need some tomatoes, let's say you're making a pasta sauce or something, pull them out, let them sit on the counter for 5-10 minutes. You can slip the skin off like nobody's business. It
Ooh.
takes a second.
When they're frozen.
That's right. It just
Okay.
takes a second to peel them, and then you just chop them and throw them in your dish. And so I've stopped buying cans of diced tomatoes because I always have these on hand instead.
Smart.
So how long would this stay in your freezer? What's a good-
2-3 years, like they're
Oh, really?
because they're sealed, right? It's like a solid
sure.
state.
Yeah,
it's
right,
just,
right,
there's- it can't get
They've got their
freezer
own
burned.
packaging.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I have heard of people just throwing them in the freezer as is. To me, that sounds like an archaeological nightmare trying to go through the freezer to find them. So I like to
Yeah.
corral them a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But yeah, I probably freeze 2 bushels of
Oh my
Romas.
heavens.
I like how you think, and I love these bags.
Yeah.
I'm moving over to these. I wash the other types of bags. I wash them in the same, do the same thing, but it's not the same as buying this type of.
And they blow their seal, they crack at the corners of the ones when you try to wash them. They just don't stay sealed.
doesn't
I've
matter.
heard of people transporting soup in these bags. That's how robust they are.
Okay.
So, I think that they're a really good option, and we've certainly switched over to these for packing lunch things and picnic things and so on. I really
Perfect
like
idea.
them.
Before we let you go, you helped your mom in the kitchen for years doing preserves, and you figured out an innovation that I would never have thought of. Can you share?
So we had a huge vegetable garden when I was a kid, family of 8. My parents are both Maritimers. They're very resourceful. And so making pickles and jams and so on was just absolute part of our annual lifestyle. And one of the ones that we made was, I don't even know what it was called. We called it bean relish because we ate it with baked beans, which we had every Saturday night when I was growing up. Not a big fan today for some reason. I don't know. But this relish was the only thing that made it edible. So it was chopped up, peppers and celery and a lot of onions. Like a bushel of onions to make a batch of these. And my job was to feed the onions into a meat grinder, an old-fashioned meat grinder, and crank them up. And of course you can imagine I'm standing on a chair. That's how little I am, because I can't reach to turn the crank otherwise. So I'm like 6 or 7, and tears running down my face. I ran to the garage. I found my old-fashioned mask and snorkel, the masks that cover your nose and eyes, and the snorkel. And I stood there and I could breathe and I could see. And my mom comes back in the kitchen because she was very much not a helicopter parent. And she's like, "Oh, good for you. Carry on then." And off she went to do something else, one of her million loads of laundry or something. And I think of her every time. She still makes smaller batches now, but every time I'm doing preserving of any kind, I think of my mom. And
Do
I'm
you
so glad I
still
learned.
wear your snorkel and mask?
No, I have sharp knives now, and it's true. The sharper your knife is, the less you're going to cry when you're chopping onions.
Oh, good to know.
So good sharp knife, you won't cry.
Do you need to put the onions in the freezer like they say?
I don't do any of that
In the
stuff.
fridge?
Good sharp
No,
knife.
good sharp knife.
Don't run it under cold water. Don't do anything. Just a good sharp knife.
Tips from Paula Roy of Constantly Cooking. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
Paula.
for having me.
It's always
Always a
wonderful
delight.
having you here.
Happy
Yes.
fall.
Happy
Yes.
preserving season.
Enjoy your day.